Hi, everyone. Welcome to Me Vision Academy. Wonderful to be with you. Myself, Adrian Groenewald, and the old man, Louis Groenewald. Today on Me Vision Academy, we present a special award of successful leadership to Mteto Nyati, and afterwards we'll do an interview with him. One of our passions is, in fact, to track, recognize, and celebrate, also learn from successful individuals, and hopefully we can inspire others to become successful themselves. We think the world needs that. And we also, more and more, we seek for those successful leaders on different levels of organizations. We obviously love to meet the leaders at the pinnacle because they set the pace. But there are so many other great leaders on different levels of organizations. No doubt, BSG and Altron, the business where you used to lead, Mteto, and even in Eskom, there are successful, good leaders on various levels. We've been tracking Mteto Nyati for many years now and felt very strongly that he deserves this prestigious exclusive award. So, Mteto, welcome. It's wonderful to have you here. He's the chairman of BSG Group, also recently appointed chairman for Eskom. Before that, led several large organizations as CEO. He's also more of an entrepreneur now even investing in businesses. So welcome and absolute congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much, Adrian, for this recognition. When I first heard of it, it was I was pleasantly surprised and felt honored to just be thought of in this way that you are recognizing me. So I'm really, really pleased. Also, on behalf of my own family, of the companies that I'm associated with, and just the many, many South Africans that are out there trying to do their best to make sure that we create a better country for our future and our children. I want to take this award on their behalf.
Thank you so much, Mteto. It's interesting when one is in a senior influential leadership position or positions, I don't know if one would want to do anything more than be a successful leader. That's what you're doing. You're a leader, and to be recognized that you're successful independently in a way, we feel that there's a space for that in our society because we have a real passion for successful leadership. Very quickly, before we go into the interview, I'm going to share the actual recognition, the award. Here it is. It's exclusive recognition of successful leadership awarded to yourself, Mteto Nyati, for at least these few points that I have here. Consistently leading self successfully. We have no doubt that that's important as you do what you do. And earlier we joked before we started recording, the old man said, "You look so young." And you said, "I work on myself. I need to look after myself." That's all part of leading self successfully, consistently leading people successfully. You've proven that successfully leading as a CEO of several large organizations. And that's ultimately the organizational side of things, impacting society, courageously accepting leadership challenges for the broader good. And then finally, your commitment to empowering future successful leaders and entrepreneurs now. And those two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive or, it's very much the same thing in many respects. And I'm one of the co-founders, the old man as well, and Me Vision Academy. That's our slogan, a journey to best self confidence. We believe when you hit your best self or you're on that rhythm towards your best self, then a real confidence shines from you. So let me just stop sharing here. Mteto, so let's just have a bit of a conversation here and start with some of those points that we awarded you for. Different leaders answer differently when we say, what have you learned about leading self, the finer elements of leading self, before we go to leading people and then leading the organization and then broader. So we're going to go kind of on those steps if we may, but just talk to that, for a moment.
Yeah, look, for me, everything starts with leading self. Many of us aspire to lead people, and we sometimes given that responsibility of leading people. But if you have not mastered leading self, we tend to see disastrous result out of those roles people take. So it is very, very important that one needs to be able to lead self. So one of the elements that I look at personally is my own, I call it self-awareness, you know,
mm,
the ability to know the things that I'm good at and the things that I'm not good at, you know. I'm an introvert, you know, there's nothing good or bad about it, but that's just a fact. But knowing that I'm an introvert is very important because I can leverage some of the, I guess, the benefits that come with that. They may be negative, but there are certain things that come with that. One of them being, for example, the ability to listen, you know. And listening is a very, very important part of leadership. We think that leadership is all about communicating and telling people, but uh, we've picked up in my own experience that the thing that many human beings want and seek in life, one, it is to love and be loved. But the second thing that many people want in life is they want to be heard, you know, and hearing someone is communicating something about you, about that person. It communicates that you are respecting that person, you see the person, you know, so that listening alone, you know,
mm,
and I'm using a lot of that, the listening part, and it impacts many people positively. People start, hey, Mteto is actually such a great leader, but it starts from just being able to pause, being present, and listen to the person and acknowledge, you know, that you have a person who has got views that are valuable. So that's just one element of being understanding yourself, being self-aware, you know. And
mm,
the other piece that is important is to understand the values that are driving you. You know, we get values. It's not, you are not born, we are not born with values. We get these things from the communities, from our parents, from where we grow up. And I see them as more like a software. You know, as someone who's coming from an IT industry,
mm,
I see hardware and software. Values to me is like the software. You can pick up what a person's values are by looking at how he or she shows up, you know, his actions, you know, and if you do not change the software, if you don't change the values, how you show up will always be in a
mm,
particular way. So what I'm saying here is that you must make sure that the values that you have are values that are serving you, you
mm,
know. I will use just one example around this question of values. That example of respect. As someone who comes from an African background, a black person, we almost, in fact, almost all people have got respect as being a value, right? But how you define that value changes from one group to the next. I look at many of us as black, our definition of respect is so broad that you may be, you know, just because somebody is senior to you or is older than you, that person may be saying something so wrong,
mm,
but we will never say, hey, what you're saying is wrong, because we are governed by this value of respect. But
mm,
things go wrong because of that. So for me, I've kept the value of respect, but I've adjusted so that I can be able to, when things are not going right, and and stand, hey, with due respect, I think you're talking nonsense, sir. You know, I should be able to say that. And
respectfully.
so it's,
Yeah.
yeah, respectfully. Yes, respectfully, but hey, where you are leading us in the wrong direction, you know, and we need to, you know, and by knowing what is governing you, you can start to understand how you are behaving, and then you can make the necessary adjustments, you know. Maybe
Mm,
the last point around knowing self is would be around a question of discipline. You know, for me, discipline is one of those things that if you bring it into anything, it multiplies that thing. It may be sport, it may be music, it may be, work, whatever. You just bring in this thing called discipline. And in reverse as well, if there is no discipline, things go wrong so quickly. Look around us. We talk about lawlessness in our country. To me, that is a strong link to this culture of discipline, or lack of, So yeah, those are some of just a few pieces that I wanted to talk about.
So leading on the leading self component, I guess one can spend just a whole hour on talking about leading self, isn't it? It's so key and so important. I mean, I also look at leading myself from a physical perspective. You say the hardware and the software. Do I look at myself physically? Do I look at myself emotionally, intellectually, financially, spiritually? There's such
Yes,
elements.
yes. For example, one of the things that I look at, I call it, it's part of the vision part of that piece. Say, you need to be looking at yourself from a vision and say, okay, what is it where do I want to be? When, from a health perspective, how do I want to be? What kind of, from my weight, what is my ideal weight? What is it that I want to put into my mouth? So that's the physical part of it. But what is my own relationship with my creator? Whatever that creator, you may call the creator whatever. What is your relationship with that creator? It's something that you need to be deliberate and intentional about it. What is your relationship with the people that you care the most about, with your wife, with your family? That is another part of managing self. Things are not just great at home because you just happen to be lucky. No, you become intentional about how you show up or how you support your family. It's things like that one looks at. That's managing self to me.
Yeah, thank you for that. Old man, you want to say anything or comment anything? There's some really good meat in some of those comments by Mteto.
Mteto, what impresses me deeply is the spontaneous way that you speak about leading yourself. And we've met hundreds of leaders, and I've been a leader in very important spiritual realms as well. But the ability to look at yourself in that way is the foundation of real authentic leadership. It's also a foundation of the ability, also this confidence that all things can be overcome, tied in with a genuine affinity with divinity around us. Thank you, Mteto. It's a pleasure seeing you just speak spontaneously about that. We believe it's often a serious missing aspect of people to really have self-understanding. And they're more worried about their self-image than they are of their true self, and to be true to that. I really appreciate your comments.
Thank you, old man. Mteto, our slogan and mission very much is journey to best self, and then we add the word confidence. Just your comments on that. You've been on a journey to your best self. We've kind of spoken about this a little bit for the last few minutes, but just comment on that journey to best self and resulting in confidence.
Yeah. So when I look at, for example, I look at myself, and I think we all have to figure out why we are here. Why are we in this life? Why are we alive? Why was I born? So these are deep questions that talk to purpose. And that's another piece about managing self and or understanding self. One needs to at least try to figure out why are you here? What is your purpose in life? And of course, one can never be 100%. I don't know for sure, but I think over time, I've kind of looked at the things that come natural to me. The things that when I'm doing those things, time just goes fly so quickly, and that's, to me, it's an indication of the space which is very much in line with why am I here. The things that when I'm doing, I just enjoy doing those things. So in trying to figure out that purpose for myself, I came to the conclusion that my purpose is to awaken the giant in others, you know. And of course, what does that mean? What I mean by this is that all of us have got greatness within ourselves, you know. But many people think that greatness is actually out there, people with big names, all of these big leaders. But all of us, we come with this greatness. And we can connect with that greatness. We can help people understand, you know, the things that they have within themselves and connect with that. We start to see great things coming from these individuals. And that's what, you know, when you look at the work that I've done, the different companies that I go to, you know, it's the same people in those companies that have always been there, but now starting to do bigger things, great things, more risk, you know, and accomplishing things that they thought they were impossible to accomplish. But it's really by creating an environment for those people to feel like they can reach beyond their reach. You know, they can try this and try that without too much risk, without being told that you've done things wrong. And by that, you start to see the things that you felt, oh, I think people thought were impossible, these things become possible, you know. So, but for me, it starts with that purpose, being on purpose, and making sure that things that I do, they talk to. And linked to that, once you start to understand that purpose of yours, you start to say, my time has to be the time that, you know, I give myself to things that are advancing that purpose. You know, it's not a coincidence that I'm in Eskom. It's because Eskom is probably one of those entities that has got people that they no longer really believe in themselves. But it's the highest concentration in that organization of people that are so smart. I'm talking IQ now. They understand, you know, the highest concentration of the people in that, but they've been let down by their leaders. And in the process, we end up in a situation where there's self-doubt, there's no belief in themselves. You know, in order to fix Eskom, you need to wake up those people and connect with who they are, their abilities, for them to take us to the future. You know, it's just one example of this living purpose. Yeah.
So yeah, Mteto, we're certainly going to get there. I think your experience, your beliefs of leading self, leading others, leading organization, all that is coming to bear now in a big influence you can exert on, for example, the Eskom Leadership Challenge. But before we go there, you've already stepped in that space of leading people. So
Yes.
let's just expand for a minute or two on what you've learned about leading people. So what I hear you say is leading people is synonymous with, or whatever, synonymous with awakening the giant in them, creating an environment. I heard you say where they
Yes.
do,
where they're safe, they're feeling safe. That's very important. You create an environment where immediately they're feeling safe. Also, an environment where they're feeling like they are needed. You know, some people go out, you know, it's like you are this leader, you know, you stand up there and you say, okay, where are we going? What is our strategy as the leader? And then possibly some leaders will stand up, our strategy is transformation. Hey, transformation is very important in this country. We need to do transformation. But you also need, as a leader, to start to think, when people are hearing you say that, what is it that they are hearing? Not what you are saying, but what are they hearing? They may be hearing you saying whatever you're saying, but what they are hearing is that you don't have a future here. You know, some people, you know, may But immediately they may not now align with what we are trying to do. They not be supportive of your thing. So we need to be thinking inclusive. How do we come up with inclusive strategies so that people they can see themselves in what you are doing? Hence, in all my view, in all the work that I've done, I try to create an environment where all people see themselves in terms of where we're going. We're trying to build a bigger cake. It's not about cutting this cake that we have in a different way, but how can we work together to build a bigger cake so that as we create this bigger cake, we can start to shape the demographics and how this cake looks like. But all of us working together to build a bigger cake. That is why you start to see people being so committed, very committed in the work because it's not threatening them. They are feeling safe in that environment. They can even be actively driving the change because that change that is being driven is not threatening them. So creating a space where people feeling comfortable, they're feeling included, being included, they're feeling heard. All people, not a specific group of people. When you are leading not just a section of the people that you are leading everybody in that,
Yeah.
and holding people accountable. And that is a part of the thing. If you are in an environment where there's no discipline, there's no discipline, even the good people, they walk away from that environment. It needs to be clear the standards. I see so many environments where we start to understand why certain things are happening. Oh, there's a lot of crime, and we understand why there's a lot. No, we should not understand crime. There's a standard. We should not understand crime. Yes, we need to go and figure out ways and means of addressing why people are hungry. But the fact that people are stealing just because they are hungry or things like that, it should not be something that we understand, And so that's just one example. So holding people accountable is part and parcel of leadership, and having tough conversation is part of leadership, and aligning, creating values where there's predictability in the environment. It's not like there's chaos. People they will be much more, they'll give you so much more because they understand how things get done here, and that predictability revolves around living the values of the organization that you are leading.
And maybe just a tip, leading people could be one-on-one. So you have a team and you're leading individuals, and awaken the giant in those individuals, hold them accountable. Just maybe what's the nuances in leading a team as opposed to leading people? Well, what makes one successful in leading a team?
I think first and foremost, I indicated here that I'm an introvert. So think about the situation where I'm hiring all introverts, and it's just it could be it's like a joke, but we may be sitting there all quiet, and waiting for somebody to say something, but nobody can say anything, right? So that's clearly not a good situation to be in. The reason why I'm highlighting this is that you need diversity within the team. Being aware of who you are, or your being self-aware helps you to build this diversity, and that diversity is not just about color. It's also about the introvert, extrovert. It could be how people show up. It could be geography. Bringing people that bring certain perspectives from different communities. It could be, all of this diversity. Look at the Springboks. There is something linked to diversity. Diversity, you having a team that brings all of these elements, they complement one another. You have a team that is uniform. Yes, it can perform well, but it's even better when it's a team there's that diversity, and it does not happen on its own. because naturally human beings want to be in environments where they are hiring people who are like themselves. So on its own, it won't happen. So you have to be conscious of that. Hey, I need to create a diverse thing, you know.
Yeah, you mentioned the Springboks. I was speaking to the CEO of an organization yesterday who attended a breakfast or some lunch with Rassie Erasmus, and he made it clear that we didn't necessarily have the best in every position in the country. So the scrum half is not necessarily the best scrum half in the country. He's very good and he may be the best, but it's that you're good enough in your skill, but also the attributes needed to fit into a team.
And how are you showing up as part of the team?
Correct.
No, yeah, because many of us are so much focused on talent alone. You know, what is it that I'm bringing? But how are you connecting with the whole? Then that creates a winning team. You know, and some people may be great individually, but may not necessarily be the best people. So understanding where each one of us are, you know. And in organization, many environments that have been, I've actually asked some people to step away from leadership roles and go into what I would call environments where they are just managing themselves, you know, individual contributor roles, you know, and shine there as an individual contributor, but be so far away from managing people because you are a danger to the people you are managing, you know. So, but that's what looking at teams, you need to understand what each and every piece is being brought by who, and staying close to your people, understanding who they are, what is it they do, is something that a leader should do. You know, not a leader that sits in the office the whole day. You'll never know your people.
It is about people. I mean, anyone who's in leadership not for people is on a hiding to nothing. I mean, it's just such a tough job if you don't see it as people being at the center of it. Anything, old man, from your side? And then I just want to ask you finally, because before we go broader, Mteto, just, you know, you look at leading self, you look at leading people and teams, but then when you look at leading a broader organization, there are other elements that are very important to also consider, you know, especially at your level, even any level, some technical elements. So maybe we can just touch on what you've learned there before we move to the broader space. Old man, anything from your side on the leading people side?
Audrey, I am touched by Mteto's kind of inner conviction, overriding humility. I think Mteto, because of his image of himself, is probably learning every day, and every situation to him, I think, is unique. What example that sets out there. So I really am enjoying hearing from him. It confirms all the hundreds of interviews we've had over the years and are writing as well. And gee, the country needs the Mtetos of the world. Thanks, all.
Mteto, just very quickly, the essentials of successfully leading an organization. Finally, if you put it all together, what else is missing?
Essentials of successfully leading an organization. I think the first and foremost is that that organization should be clear what is it that is delivering. It's a reason of being. Why do we exist? You know, and that needs to be figured out by that organization. What is it that it is offering the world? You know, what service, what thing, whatever that thing is, and that needs to be clear. Many times it was clear when the founder was there, you know, like when the two of you started this business, it's clear. But many years ago, when you guys are no longer here, it could be lost, the reason, you know. But also the environment changes all the time. You always to continue to have to ask yourself, am I still relevant? Is what I'm offering something that is needed? So at the core, That's the first thing that one needs to do. Whatever you are offering the world, that's something that needs to be clear. And so that's the first thing. I think the second big important piece is culture. I think it was Peter Drucker who spoke about culture, its strategy for breakfast. If you do not understand that culture is so important, you will be asking yourself, why are you not achieving what you set out to achieve? And the thing that may be stopping you is your culture. You know? So understanding your culture and understanding how you can change that culture, because the culture may have been relevant in the past, but in the future, it may not be helping you for where you want to go in the future. Understanding the elements of culture. One of those elements of culture is values. What are the values of the organization? Are those values embedded in the way we do things? For example, when you are hiring, are you hiring to make sure that you are attracting people that really talk to those values? So when you are promoting people, is there a link between that and the values that you have in the organization? When you are getting rid of people, is there a link? When you are rewarding people, is there a link to those values? So in all of the organizations that I've worked for, I've put values at the center of everything. You know, when we are having awards, those awards, it's not just, the top performing salesperson, it's also the people that are living the values. It's the leaders, So people, it is in general, is an important element of what you need to look at to have a successful organization. And then leadership. Leadership matters. To me, if you look at a school that is somewhere in the Eastern Cape, in the rural area there, and is having a 100% pass rate with no internet, nothing. And you ask yourself, how is the school consistently delivering these great results?
Leadership.
The answer is always going to be look at the headmaster. Whoever is the principal, they set the tone. And look at the discipline. Look at the people that they attract, the teachers they attract. It's a combination, but it starts with that leader. Think about it. Our problems around schools now become, if this is the correlation, maybe the focus should be, why don't we make sure that we have the best leaders in these schools? We may not have all of the resources to bring, the internet and computers, and no, but by just doing one thing, make sure that you have the right leaders.
Yep.
The same with the hospitals. Hospitals, make sure that you've got, the same thing with the police stations. Those, then your problems just go away because of, again, leadership. So leadership matters a lot. It's some of those things.
Those are powerful points. When we had a show on Cliff Central for a few years, we spent a few months or a year interviewing school principals. And it was absolutely clear you have two schools, both under-resourced. One performs well, one doesn't. And you could clearly see that is the key element. So thank you for bringing that up. Now, before we just end off with a last message and discussion with you, I guess a part of me says all of this that you've learned about leadership, leading self, leading others, leading organization, does all of that come to bear in your challenge of leading Eskom or being the chairman at Eskom, not the CEO? So, or not so much. Just give us a perspective of what this job, this leadership job, is expecting of Mteto Nyati.
Yeah. So when an opportunity comes, I always have to ask myself, is this something that is in line with my purpose?
Yeah.
Because if it is not, then there's not even a point for me to be there, So that's the first thing. If there's an alignment, that's the first tick. Then the next thing, when I look all all of what I've learned over the years, does that help me? Does it position me in a place where I could be able to address the challenges that are facing this institution? And if the answer is no, then what's the point for me to even sign up for that thing? So when I look at collectively at all of what I've faced, the experiences that I've had, and I look at the challenge that we have in Eskom, which is a big challenge, but I feel, most of this experience talks to the challenge that this organization has. Of course, I'm part of a team. I'm going to be working with a team, but that CEO, that board, they need people that are going to be guiding them. Even the engagement with the different stakeholders, the government, engaging and advising those people, because you cannot just be looking at Eskom, you need to be looking at the ecosystem around Eskom, because it's that ecosystem that's creating the results that we see in Eskom. So as you're thinking about fixing Eskom, we need to be thinking, how am I going to be influencing all of these people? Which means I need to understand where they come from. I need to understand their interest. And as you understand their interest, then you start to have discussions that say, okay, how can we align our interests so that we can work together, not work against each other? It's that, but that comes from all of the experiences that one has had over the years. So yes, to answer your question directly, absolutely.
Can you say that you already have hope? I mean, obviously you just started there, I don't know, not too long ago, a month ago or so. Do you, and I don't expect you to say, no, I have no hope. I mean, obviously it's a difficult question, but honestly, sincerely,
now maybe let me start by saying, Adrian, the reason why I took the job is because I've been now in that environment for a year as a board member.
Yes.
And the board member and my responsibility, I was chairing a committee that is called, it's a new committee, it's called Business Operational Performance Committee. So it's a committee that looks at the power stations, performance, fixing the power stations. So I'm sitting where I was sitting, I see, are we making progress or not? Is there light at the end of the tunnel? So it's this committee together with management that came up with what is called a generation recovery plan. It's a plan which was presented in March. It's a 24-month recovery plan. Feel that we need to come up with something that's realistic. I know it's not, people want to hear it's going to be fixed tomorrow. No, it has to take time. It takes time, but you have to be disciplined. You go, you take out a unit, you fix it. When you bring it back online, it must be better than when you took it away, which means you use the right parts, you use the right people that are knowledgeable in doing that. Do we have those people in Eskom? Plenty of them. Do we have everywhere? No, which means the way you go about those outages, it should be aligned with your ability to pull the right resources to do the outage that you have taken out. So we'll be limited. That's why you cannot just do this thing overnight. We're limited with, yes, there are skills, but some of the skills have left. So you use what you have in the right way, and each time you touch something, you must leave it better than you found it. And why we were 2 weeks ago, why were we really so angry about getting to stage 6? The reason why we're angry as a country is because it has been a long time since we were in stage 6. We're starting to be used to 2, 1. Why? Because of this improvement. We've been improving, then something happened. Like in any of the turnaround situation, you always have setbacks. But doesn't mean that if you're looking over time, you're actually seeing the trend is going up. And that trend is going up not by mistake. It's going up because of the work that is being done to fix power station or unit by unit, unit by unit. And yeah. And when I look at that, I feel I can see the light at the end of it. That's why if immediately one loses hope, there's no point of even being in this role. You know, for me, where I was sitting, I could see, and I feel that you know, together with management, we should be in a position to get this company out of the current challenges. I'm now talking largely the technical challenges, because there are other challenges, which is more the corruption. That's another lens to this, but I'm just now confining myself to electricity generation for now.
Thank you. Before I ask you for a final message to leaders out there, and it might just be a message to South Africans in general as well, I want to share with you our vision. It's been interesting as we start engaging leaders, you know, identifying and recognizing top leaders who we think deserve a leadership award. It's been interesting how we've realized we have another vision now, and that is to identify and recognize 30,000 successful leaders by 2030, and to mobilize them, you know, from all angles. We believe these leaders are on all levels of organizations. They are not just at the top, with your example and other leaders' examples out there. And our goal is to gather them, because they're already successful in their own sphere. How do we mobilize them to generate more successful leaders? The world is very strong on developing new leaders, and we mustn't neglect that, absolutely. But they're already successful leaders. How do we recognize them, like in a way we're doing with you now, just slightly differently? And how do we then set them free to say, you are now out there to make a difference? So that's our vision. It'll be hashtag 30,000 successful leaders by 2030. Your comments on that? Is it too bold? Is it possible? Is it needed?
I mean, South Africa has got, I don't know how many, we've got 60 million people in this country. So 30,000 is not a lot of people in relation to that number. And to me, I think it's actually a good number, because, as I was saying, that many things, leadership matters. So one person can make a big difference. I come from that. So if you've got these 30,000 people, if each one of them is doing their thing in their area of influence, you look at the multiplier effect of that. Because one leader alone, the impact of that one leader is huge. And you multiply that by 30,000, that's huge. So it is a good goal to set for yourself. And it's a goal that can shift this country. You know, 30,000 is bold, but you need to be bold around these things. You know, it's bold. You need to stretch yourself, right? So I'm honestly, I feel that is a good thing to set yourself as a target, and if you can do that, you can shift this country in a positive direction. And the good thing about these 30,000 people, most of them, they're not waiting for anybody to be telling them anything. Because they are already doing things in their areas of influence, you know. But now when you start to connect them, you start to create this big ecosystem where people can learn from one another, they can multiply through those connections. Yeah.
And obviously, as we gather more resources, we'll go for 100,000. But we'll see how the vision unfolds. The point is just, if you shine a spotlight on the successful leaders and you empower them and connect them and mobilize them, then, you know, the difference you can make is huge. Old man, do you want to just say something before I let Mteto just share a final message out there?
I'm just fascinated, Mteto. Right at the beginning, you mentioned your main concern with Eskom is the self-doubt that's crept in. Because We find it all over the place. And the challenge you have is to get the essence of your personal understanding and passion for the greatness within ourselves, get it out there. Obviously, all the other great things must be done, leadership, but I certainly hope that you are not forced by all the great administration things to let go of the real Mteto, and that is we believe in the greatness of the people down there. So self-trust and self-confidence and values can really swing Eskom. So we appreciate you as a very good example of the kind of leaders we love to support.
Yeah, Mteto, I agree with the old man there. I hope that that learning of yours, which all leaders at the top don't necessarily have. I mean, they would say it, but you mean it. I hope that can also come to bear inside the Escoms of life, where it's not just the technical things, which I understand you've got to manage that, but that vision that you've caught needs to somehow infiltrate Eskom. And it's possible, of course. Let's highlight those excellent leaders there and tell them to do that as well, not just you.
Absolutely.
There are others that can go and do this, but they just need to know, gosh, I am a successful leader. Not by me. I'm not saying others are saying I'm a successful leader. Then let's go into your final message. You can comment on that, but just your final message to South Africans about leadership, just whatever impresses you.
Yeah. No, so look, first let me say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the recognition. It's something that I truly value and honor. I'm honored to have been recognized this way. We've got a beautiful country here. It's really, really beautiful, and you realize it when you leave the country and then come back. You realize how much beautiful this country has. And it's a country that has got so much potential. It's got so much potential. We can be playing with the best out there in the world. People of this country. We've come up with, it is in this country that the first heart transplant was made. It is in this country that we produce, the foundations of Elon come from this country. It is in this country that, the creepy crawlies were developed for the world. It is in this country. We think about Amazon. Amazon Web Services. That Amazon Web Services started in Cape Town. It's the local people here that came up. Now it's this big giant. This is what we have in this country. We have this greatness. We should never settle for mediocrity. We should never settle for average, but it's up to us as leaders. Let's not try and boil the ocean, try and, hey, let's fix South Africa. No, fix the environment that you are in. In that environment that you are in, where you've got influence and control, make sure that you create an environment where people feel like they're excited to be part of that. They bring their A game in that space where you have got control. Each time the people that you are connected with, they bring their best, their A game, and that is what is going to move this country forward. It's us focusing on those areas where we've got control and making sure that we don't settle for less. We lift our games in those spaces, and it's all about us as the leaders making sure that we set the right tone from the top. Making sure that we live the values that are guiding this country. Thank you so much.
Mteto Nyati, thank you so much. I hope that you're given the wings to fly, because I think you can fly high and far and take many with you. We're grateful that you're there where you are right now. Of course, that puts a lot of weight on your shoulders. I sent you a message as you accepted the job that it's not an easy place to be. There's a lot of recognition now, and well done, go for it. But I have a deep quiet confidence. In fact, let me say, I think the first time I may have interviewed you was way back when you were MTN CEO for South Africa. And I can absolutely sense growth. That's a few years back. I mean, that's 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know. I can sense growth as a leader. And I've sat with many leaders. And well done on that. The fact that you have grown as a leader, I can just sense it. I can feel it. I'm excited with you as a chairman at Eskom. Good luck with that. You've got our support, and all the best with everything. And that's our Me Vision Academy recognition to Mteto Nyati for successful leadership. So deserved. And we look forward to our next leader that we will recognize. And we wish you all the best. Bye.
Thank you so much, Adrian. Cheers, Louis.
Thank you.